Adam Sandler's one of the most beloved comedy actors ever, but his rise to the top was actually filled with rejection. One of his acting professors tried to get him to quit, and he even got fired from his first major acting role. And once he made it to the top, the struggle continued. He lost the opportunity to work with one of the most iconic directors of all time, and almost missed out on one of his biggest roles ever because his manager didn't want him to do the movie. But he almost never became the legend he is today. In fact, his start was so rough that 99% of people would have given up. Sandler didn't begin with acting, but stand-up comedy instead.
For a long time, nobody laughed at. I was in New York. I used to go in the Greenwich Village. I used to play a place called the Paper Moon and Folk City, and I'd go up and I would bomb every night.
Though he had something huge going for him, and that was his unwavering confidence and a healthy dose of delusion. Despite tanking every night, he believed his material was truly special.
I think the only thing I had going for me back then was how young I was, and I didn't even understand when I did badly. I think something was wrong with the audience that night. Yeah. I did not ever take full...
Did you blame the audience?
I blame the audience. Yeah. The last person I blamed was myself.
And like the Beatles, he got by with a little help from his friends.
I had a couple of people that I locked in with. We were buddies. We all had that same thing of like, I'm good, even though it wasn't that good yet.
But after years of failure, things started to click, and you could see him in his late teens getting a much more receptive reaction from the audience.
Bathroom and have fun, you always go in there, do the same deal. Take one piece of toilet paper and put it there. Another piece over there. Then you pull down your pants and a gust of wind knocks the left piece in there.
While he was starting to take off as a stand-up comic, he had his sights set elsewhere. He never saw stand-up as his final destination, but instead wanted to become an actor. So he followed his dream and went off to NYU, one of the most prestigious acting schools in the world. But it didn't go down how you'd think. He actually wasn't even there to become a comedic phenom, but was instead honing his skills in drama.
I was never doing comedy monologues in school. I always was doing Indian Wants the Bronx and stuff like that.
Really?
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything.
Somehow his reception in college was actually way worse than the beginnings of his stand-up comedy journey. The rejection he faced was brutal, and it even got to the point that one of his acting professors tried to convince him to do something else with his life.
And it was an acting coach, I believe, or acting professor.
Acting professor, yeah.
Is this how he took you out for a beer, and he kindly said to you,
yes,
think about something else.
Exactly.
Listen, you got a heart, but you don't have it.
Yeah.
You don't have it.
Yeah, right.
Choose another path.
Oh, yeah.
Truth?
That is, it was like that.
That says way more about the professor's teaching abilities than it does of Adam's growing pains as an actor. I mean, imagine being the professor that told Adam freaking Sandler, of all people, that he was hopeless as an actor. But he powered through, got his degree, and finally landed in his proper environment. Because immediately after graduating, he became roommates with another guy who'd go on to become one of the biggest names in comedy, except it was way before anyone had any clue who either of them were.
That Judd Apatow was my roommate when I was we were roommates when I was 22 and he was 21.
That's right. Sandler roomed with Judd Apatow, the guy who produced and or directed Superbad, Anchorman, and The 4-Year-Old Virgin, amongst several other classics. Judd always knew he was going to be special, and recounted what Sandler's energy was like back then.
So he was obsessively making phony phone calls. He would call like a credit card company, and he would act like someone whose credit card just got stolen in a very violent robbery. You're walking down the street and you're having a nice day, and the next thing that happens, you have a fucking gun in your mouth. Then they would ask, well, what was the credit card number? I don't know, they fucking stole it from me.
But before too long, that energy was finally going to be used towards Sandler's true passion in life, because he was about to land his first film role ever, in the most unique of circumstances.
I get off stage, came up to me, hey, that was good. You want to be in a movie? I said, yeah, for sure. They were like, okay, we're going to make a movie. We're doing a movie on a boat. When? Next week we leave. I go, okay, great. Do I have a big part? They go, well, you're the star. I go, okay, cool. So I go home.
I just watched this movie for the first time ever, and I'm not going to bag on someone else's micro-budget directorial debut, but I will say what I found particularly interesting was that even his first film role ever that he got last second, he was by far the best performer in the film. It was clear as day that he was destined for big things, because Sandler's struggle of a come-up was finally about to be over, and he was about to land the opportunity that any aspiring comic could only dream of. The year was 1990. At the age of 23, Adam Sandler was offered a job at Saturday Night Live, but his time on SNL almost never happened. Sandler had dreams of becoming an actor, so he felt slighted when he was offered a writing role instead. So much so that he seriously considered turning them down.
Good news, they liked you. They thought some of your jokes were good. They actually want you to be a writer. And
Were you going to actually consider turning down?
yes, I just did exactly what my father told me to do or what my friends were saying. And some of them were like, what, a writer? No, don't do that. I was like, okay, I can't do it.
But thanks to better judgment, he ended up accepting the job, and it was way more than he had ever dreamed of. Being able to meet several of his childhood icons was surreal, to say the least.
Every week you'd meet superstars that you grew up with, Dan Aykroyd, like all the original SNL cast. We got to meet so many of those comedians we all loved growing up. Then rock stars, we got to meet Paul McCartney and Bruce Springsteen and everybody we talked about. All of a sudden we were in the room shooting the shit with him. It was incredible.
They actually didn't keep him off camera for long either, because less than a year into his tenure, they gave him the opportunity to act alongside Tom Hanks, which was something that really gave him the jitters.
On the show, I was with Tom Hanks, and I think I had one line. I kept saying to myself, I think I'm going to faint. I'm about to, because it's live, and I was like, oh no, I'm going to faint. And I think he said, don't.
And here's a snippet of that sketch.
$60. So what? He says no? How can you use camera without instructions? Well, that's what I tried to tell him. Look, I'm not going to pay $60. He's crazy. Okay.
He impressed the suits enough to become a regular on the show, and also got the attention of David Letterman, who gave him the opportunity to make his network television debut just a few months later.
Our next guest is getting a lot of attention as a writer and performer on Saturday Night Live this year. He's making his network television debut right here on our program tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a very funny young man, Adam Sandler. Adam
Scored 100 points in one basketball game. That's a lot of points for one game, isn't it? 100 points, one game. I'd like to do an impression for you. This is the 4 other fellas on the team with Wilt during a timeout. Hey, I'm open, man. What are you doing? Pass the ball. I got my family here. You got like 94 points already. Ed has 2. That's because you bounced it off his head. Just share the wealth a little.
Through the years, he'd become an SNL icon through characters such as Opera Man and Canteen Boy, frequently collaborating with Chris Farley and David Spade. This success led to several film roles, such as Coneheads and Airheads, but no film during his SNL days was bigger than Billy Madison. By all accounts, this was his breakout role, and still one of his funniest movies to date.
Yeah, I can't wait till I go to high school.
Don't you say that. Don't you ever say that. Stay here. Stay as long as you can. For the love of God, cherish it. Today, Junior!
He also views this movie as effectively being his film school.
Learning a lot and learning about the editing room. I knew nothing about the editing room either. We learned, Billy Madison was the one that we learned the most on.
It was even his first lead role to generate a profit at the box office. In conjunction with SNL, Sandler was really turning into quite the star. This no doubt should have excited NBC. I mean, surely there would have been masses tuning in to see Adam every Saturday night, but they had the exact opposite opinion and decided to move on from him.
Who fired you? How do you find out?
I know it wasn't Lauren's decision. The NBC head dude, he didn't like our gang, me and Farley and some of the youth.
Oh. It was the rare moment in the history of the show where the network and the critics were on the same side. Everybody agreed that this group of people weren't funny.
Despite his success on SNL, and now with Billy Madison, he actually had serious concerns about the future of his career.
when you left that show, were you nervous about leaving behind that wonderful experience and you're thinking, geez, I could just go out and be sucked into the abyss and never heard of again?
Yes, of course.
It's just insane in hindsight to think that he was facing rejection everywhere he went, whether it was from the professors at NYU or now the executives at NBC. But this was all a blessing in disguise, because you never want to be on SNL for too long. And he was about to break free from all of the noise and turn into the Adam Sandler we all know and love. Because less than a year after his dismissal from SNL, he'd hit the world with one of his most iconic films of all time.
Hey, where you going with those clubs, punk?
Mr. Gilmore, I'm your caddy.
Happy Gilmore was an even bigger financial success than Billy Madison. While it was miles away from being a blockbuster, it no doubt did numbers on DVD. In fact, this was by far the most watched DVD by my family on road trips, and probably the most quoted movie at school. I just rewatched this last year for probably the first time in about 15 years, and it definitely still holds up.
The price is wrong, bitch.
That scene just reminds me of watching The Price is Right every day during the summer, or whenever I'd stay home sick from school. I remember that and Family Feud would always play back to back, and oh my god, I loved those so much. Good times. That same year, he'd follow up with Bulletproof, acting alongside Damon Wayans. This wasn't the same success as Happy Gilmore, and at the same time left him in limbo as to whether he'd become a big comedy star or slowly drift away from the spotlight. But 2 years later, 1998, was the most important year in Sandler's career because he'd cross a major milestone for the first time, then do it again just 9 months later. That milestone was $100 million at the box office. And once he crossed that, he essentially never looked back. He did it for the first time with The Wedding Singer, which was his first of many movies with Drew Barrymore, and a movie that was praised to the point that it was even adapted into a Broadway play. The second was Waterboy.
Got other teams looking around the sidelines for talent. In fact, yesterday, Michigan, devastated by injury, experimented with their towel boy at wide receiver,
which was so successful that it brought in nearly $200 million at the box office and was what really cemented Sandler into A-list status. This all came despite critics like Roger Ebert coming after Sandler every which way. I particularly loved the story he told about Kathy Bates on this very subject.
And I loved her, and I loved everything she did. And I remember telling her, when someone brought up critics, I was like, they're probably not going to like it. They're going to say bad stuff. Maybe don't read it. And she's like, I liked it. So that's all that matters, or something like that. Yeah, she was cool.
But the hits didn't stop there, because it took him less than a year after Waterboy to cross the $200 million milestone. He did it with Big Daddy.
What are you doing in here, cutie?
Watching football.
Who do you want to win?
The God Jets.
Like many others in this era, I frequently remember this one being rerun on cable, and was also surprisingly heartfelt. At this point, Sandler was transforming from comedy star into cultural phenomenon. But not every movie can do the numbers his previous 3 films did, and he'd experienced without question the biggest flop of his career with Little Nicky. This was another movie we owned on DVD, and while I never hated it, it just wasn't the endlessly rewatchable, super fun movie that Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore are. But let's be real. How cool is it that they got Harvey Keitel, Dan Marino, and Quentin Tarantino to act in this movie? Little Nicky was definitely a shift from his wheelhouse, but he really changed it up in his next lead role in Punch Drunk Love.
Asked to come and hang out. We were shooting Little Nicky at the time, another movie, and Paul comes over, and he just talked about some of the stuff I've done in the past, and he's a Saturday Night Live fan, so we talked about that stuff, and I just thought he was a great guy, and I loved Boogie Nights, and then a week later, Magnolia came out, and I saw that movie, and I was like, well, this guy knows what he's doing. He's pretty damn good, isn't he? He said he wanted to work together and do a movie together, and I was just excited.
Gonna be honest, I know this isn't a popular opinion, but I didn't particularly love this movie. At the same time, I thought Sandler's performance was incredible, and he showed he's to be taken seriously as a dramatic actor. Much like Little Nicky, though, it flopped at the box office, but not in as devastating a fashion. He got back on track, both at the box office and tonally, with Mr. Deeds coming out just 1 month later. Outside of Happy Gilmore, this was my most watched movie as a child, and I remember absolutely loving it. I just rewatched it last week, and I was scared to death, because about halfway through the movie, I still had not gotten into it. I wasn't hating it, but nothing really stuck out. Then the second half of the movie happened, and it completely saved me from heartbreak.
Was that awesome? Am I out or safe?
What are you gonna do with your 20,000? Quit school.
School is for fools! Look at me! I wanted to be a magician.
And what do you do now?
I operate a pornographic website.
That makes people happy also, I guess, but kind of in a grosser way.
2002 was an insanely busy year for him, because in addition to Punch Drunk Love and Mr. Deeds, he also starred in the animated movie 8 Crazy Nights, which I also remember loving growing up. It was a pretty big flop, making it feel like anytime he strayed away from his traditional goofball comedies, he'd inevitably fail. But this hypothesis was proven wrong just 1 year later with Anger Management. And as I say this, I'm just in awe at how frequently he was pumping out movies. Like, he essentially had a movie for every season of the year. But Anger Management was a weird one. Not just because it was far from his traditional comedy, but also because he got to work with one of the greatest actors of all time in Jack Nicholson. Jack's known to be incredibly picky with what movies he does, and so I was shocked to hear just how easy it was to get him to jump on board.
I saw this funny script and I told somebody, man, it would be good to do this movie with Jack Nicholson. And then next thing I know, Jack read it and liked it, and I was like, you're kidding me.
But yeah, the movie was a commercial success, bringing in nearly $200 million. It definitely had some funny moments.
Just go over there and repeat the following, verbatim. I'm sorry I was so rude before, but it's difficult for me to express myself when I'm on the verge of exploding in my pants.
Huh?
But above all else, I was just taken aback by how strong the performances by both Adam and Jack were. Say what you will, I don't care. Adam is an incredibly talented actor, and he very much deserved to star alongside Jack. He'd get super silly again with 50 First Dates and The Longest Yard, both of which I find to be classic comfort comedies, and both raked in healthy profits. It was also around this time that he released his 5th studio album, and if you listen to the guy sing and play the guitar, it's clear that if acting didn't work out, music no doubt would have. He's genuinely one of the most talented all-around artists of the modern era. But we need to talk about the next movie he starred in, Click. Not only did the movie gross nearly $300 million at the box office and have its fair share of funny moments.
Yeah, well, my father's stereo is a Bose.
Your father's stereo blows? That's too bad.
No! I said... That's not what I said!
His father's stereo blows!
Please!
That's my boy! That's my boy! Kid, you were great!
You're not my dad.
As far as you know.
What?
I was just joking.
But I'll beat on the drum that this is Sandler's best all-around film. If you're not aware, the movie follows a guy who's at his wit's end with his boss, is perpetually annoyed by his family, and can never find his TV remote. After a creepy guy played by Christopher Walken gives him a universal remote, he learns this remote can also fast forward through the unpleasant moments in life. It spirals out of control, and he accidentally fast forwards through his life and misses his kids growing up, realizing how important the parts of life that we don't always love are. It reminds me of how when I filmed the Will Ferrell video for this channel, how I was already running late, but I decided to power through and just film the video anyways. And then when I got done filming, I found out that my SD card was full and that I was going to have to just re-record the video later that day anyways, and it was incredibly frustrating. But it was also just very much a first world problem and a reminder that you just don't have to be happy 24/7. This movie really put that in strong perspective. Click was also the first movie that actually made me cry since I saw The Whale in theaters. If you've never seen this movie, or if it's been a while, you should give it a watch. He apparently really got the dramatic acting bud because he followed Click up with the very serious, hard-hitting drama, Reign Over Me, which only further showcased his serious acting chops.
I walk down the street, I see it in someone else's face. Clearer than any of the pictures you carry with you. I get that you're in pain, but you got each other.
Things got weird with I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, with a premise of two straight firefighters who fake a gay relationship so that one of them doesn't get screwed out of his pension. I remember it causing a bit of a stir in the media.
When it comes time for Adam Sandler and Kevin James to have to kiss each other, they have to get all ew about it. It's just like, okay, I know you meant well, but rewrite.
Which, that guy's just insane. I mean, Obviously, it would be gross for two straight guys to kiss each other in the same way that it would be gross for a gay guy to kiss a woman. I just have no idea what that guy's on about. But I also remember society and family around me being super awkward about this movie. Like, I remember in pre-algebra class in 7th grade, Mr. Smith would always let us watch a movie if our class average was above 80%. And I remember we did that and asked, what movie do we want to watch? Someone raised their hand and suggested this movie, and he quickly goes, no, and I know you know why we won't watch that movie. I was like, damn, okay. I just rewatched this and was pleasantly surprised at the humor.
How's my mom? You mind if she survived the birthing process, nothing's gonna take her down.
Planning department. Please tell me your name.
Larry Valentine.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that.
Larry Valentine.
You said Barry Schmalenpine. Is that right?
Schmalenpine?
You said Schmalenpine. Is that right?
I was enunciating.
You said I was enunciating. Is that right?
Woo!
You said woo!
Civil or religious?
Religious. I'm Jewish. I don't want to piss my mother off.
I'm Catholic. I don't want to piss Mel Gibson off.
It got a little too serious in the second half for my liking, but all around decent movie. The controversy didn't stop there, though, because his next lead role in You Don't Mess with the Zohan was considered so risky that it took nearly a decade to get made.
We had a script we really liked in like 2000, 9/11 happens. And we were like, oh, I guess you can't do that now. Like everything about what we're satirizing is much more heated. I think we put it in a trunk before 9/11 when there was the Intifada a year or two before that.
This movie wasn't really for me, but it had some funny moments.
You don't sound Australian.
Yes, no. This is because I am half Australian, half Mount Everest.
And he did at least get to realize his dream of being in the military, if only as a fictional portrayal.
To God, my whole life, when I was a kid, I was like, I am going to be in the military. I'm going to defend our country. That's all I ever talked about in my house. Like, I'm defending, this is what I'm made for. And then I was like 15 at the dinner table, and I was saying that same speech, I can't wait to join the military. My father goes, you're not joining the military. And I go, why not? He goes, because you're a
He'd changed lanes yet again that same year, starring in his first children's movie, Bedtime Stories.
I was telling the guys who work with me, I got to make a movie that my kids can see. I want to make at least one where I'm comfortable going, hey, Dad did this.
And he proved just how versatile his star power was, grossing over $200 million. He'd follow it up with one of his worst box office flops, but also my second favorite movies ever done in Funny People. He teamed up with his college roommate, Judd Apatow, for their only actor-director partnership. Sure, the movie wanders a little bit in the second half, but I firmly believe this is one of the greatest dramedies of all time. What you probably didn't know, though, is that he was supposed to be in one of Tarantino's films, but chose to do Funny People instead.
It's a role you turned down that I was shocked by.
What?
Quentin Tarantino wanted you to play the Bear Jew.
Yes.
And Eli Roth ended up doing it.
No, I wanted to do it. It was just Judd was shooting Funny People at the same time.
Did that break your heart when the movie came out?
Well, you know what broke my heart more is Tarantino. I know him, and for years he was telling me he wrote it for me. And so I was always excited to shoot it with him. And then when that happened, I called him up. I said, I don't know if I can do it because I got Judd. And he goes, okay, cool, no worry.
I know Tarantino said he's only directing one more movie, but I really hope he gets to direct Sandler in it. This was near the beginning of the end of Sandler's theatrical run, because he'd only have a few more hits in theaters before he'd fundamentally change his career forever. He did go out with a bang, though. Grown Ups absolutely exploded, and also gave him the opportunity to work with all of his friends on the same movie.
The great Adam Sandler had this idea to put all of us together and do a movie together, and me and Fred Wolf wrote it up.
I remember seeing this movie in theaters when I was on vacation in Illinois, and it absolutely brought the house down. He also did Just Go With It, which I thought was okay, Jack and Jill, which was bizarre to say the least, the Grown Up sequel that I enjoyed way more than I probably should have, and reunited yet again with Drew Barrymore for Blended. And almost all of these were box office profit machines, so it's pretty mind-blowing to think that he was about to walk away from it all entirely. But he did. Comedy's most bankable star for nearly 2 decades decided to take on a seismic shift and went from theatrical darling to streaming darling. In 2014, Sandler signed a landmark deal to star in films exclusively for Netflix. If you watch my channel, you know I try to stay away from straight-to-streaming movies. They're a cancer to the film industry, and they're also usually much lower quality. Matt Damon even shed light onto how Netflix openly speaks about trying to make movies for people who play on their phones during them by rehashing the plot continuously and also optimizing movies for retention instead of trying to make the best possible movie. I've only seen a few of his Netflix movies, notably The Week Of and Happy Gilmore 2, and you see the exact thing Matt Damon was talking about. They're not the worst movies ever made, but they're disposable and don't belong in the same conversation as his classics like Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. Despite this, every once in a while, he does still star in a movie that gets a theatrical release, like Uncut Gems. But did you know that his manager almost sabotaged the whole film? And he also did everything he initially could to make sure that Adam did not do this movie.
They wrote it for me. They like 10 years ago. Sandy got a hold of it, my manager. He said, absolutely not. Not now, not ever. And so
This is the guy that stopped you from doing Guardians of the Galaxy.
5 years later, they offered to me again. I didn't see it, and old Sandy stepped in and goes, "What's this? I read this piece of shit." They did it again 10 years later, and then I got a hold of it.
Thank goodness it finally got through to him, because his performance was absolutely riveting and even led to an award.
And the Spirit Award for Best Male Lead goes to Adam Sandler.
I also want to say thank you to anybody who ever worked on any of the comedies I did over the years. You guys, I love you, and I'm glad we did all that work together.
And that speech is just the epitome of why Adam's such a special guy. In the 30-plus hours that I spent listening to his interviews in preparation for this video, I am yet to find even 1 second where he comes off as unfriendly, condescending, arrogant, just anything negative. And that really just shows he's just an all-around great guy. By the way, my directorial debut, a stoner comedy, is now streaming for free on Tubi. Adam has had one of the most extraordinary careers of all time, and it's only right that he got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It was just announced that they're doing a Grown Ups 3. I was holding out hope that it'd be a theatrical film, given Sony did the first two, but was disappointed when I saw Netflix now has the rights. Though recently he spoke in high praise of the theatrical experience, and even shared optimism that Netflix movies may start going to theaters.
Back in, I bet it makes a comeback into movies you see on streaming a lot being on big screen. I just think it's a moment. I think it's a moment. I don't think stuff goes away forever. I just think this is where it's at right now. Sitting back and watching how great that movie looked, Tarantino's movie, on a big screen was just a great experience.
Adam Sandler's had an outrageous career and is still going strong. But what about the other big star in comedy who came up around the same time as Adam, but is no longer the mainstream draw he once was? Part of Will Ferrell's disappearance has to do with him being the victim of one of the most shocking Hollywood betrayals of all time, but the story gets so much crazier. And I take you through exactly what happened to Will Ferrell here.